Okay, we are live again. Good afternoon. If you are here, please say something if you have joined me. So, good afternoon again. My name is Mary Beth, and we're here for our second session for the day. We're expecting Chino Obina to join us very soon. We're going to be talking about the sex conversation and how you can use it to promote a purpose-driven life. Chino Obina is a sex conversation expert. She is a parent coach, and our expertise is to speak to parents about the sex conversation or to help families become sex wise. So we call her the sex wise coach, isn't it? So that's what we call her. So Chinara will be joining us in a bit. We will just hang in here a little and wait for her to join us. So question is why, we may want to ask, why do we need to have the sex conversation with our kids? So in my session earlier, I said I was going to talk a little about something that happened yesterday when I picked the kids from school, when I picked my son from school. So he got into the car with his friend and they started talking about something that happened in school. So they said they had this session. The head of school of this school came to, they're in year 6. So the head of school came and she was speaking with them about, she was having the sex conversation with them more or less. Okay. And it started from somewhere. I think it started from, I'm telling you from the accounts now. So it started from them paying attention and then doing something productive. Yes, I remember when they were telling me the story. So she said something about it's not enough that you have knowledge, it's not enough that you know something, and it's not enough that you are good at a particular thing. It is very important that you ask yourself the question, what can I do with the knowledge that I have? So this is the conversation the head of school of my son's school had with her year 6 children yesterday. Okay. And then she said they had to think of what they can do with what they know, because it is that time. Their generation is a generation of not just knowledge or not just having knowledge, but knowing how you can convert that knowledge into something productive. So while she was saying that, she dabbled into the fact that there are a lot of distractions around. This is the children's accounts. This is them telling me. Right? So she talks about the distractions that they have and then mentioned the internet as a very huge distraction that they have as children, that they could have. And then she talked about how you can go on the internet and you don't use it for the right reason, or you don't use it to do something effective, but rather you go into things like playing, getting into sites that you have no business getting into. And so she talked about pornography. She talked about some vices, things like pornography and things like that. As we were having a conversation, his friend actually now said that I got really very disgusted. Like I got disgusted, like it was really embarrassing the way she was mentioning the penis and vagina. Then I said to him, but you're mentioning the penis and vagina right now. Why are you mentioning? No, he didn't mention it at first. He was like, she was just mentioning everything. I'm like, what do you mean she was mentioning everything? What was she mentioning? Like she was like, I'm no, say what she was like. She was mentioning the vagina and I hope no network is about to try me because I'm really, really not in the mood right now. All right, so why should she not mention the private part like the vagina and the penis? So I said to him, now when you want to talk, you have a name, right? Good. So when people want to refer to you, do they refer to you by your name, or they refer to you by, this person's son? Is that what they say to you? Would you like it if they come and they say to you, I'll say to my son too, they come and they say to you, Mary Beth's son, you're going to be like, "Ah, I have a name now. Use my name. Which one is Mary Beth's son, isn't it?" And we're like, yes. And then apart from that, I'm like, do you talk about, when you talk about your eyes, what do you say? Do you say, please, close that thing that you used to see? No, no, you call it your eyes. So why are you not calling it your penis or your or your vagina? So when you already look at your penis or your vagina as things that you need to be ashamed of, or things that you should be shy talking about, or things that cannot be mentioned, chances are these are the things that abusers will cry on. Or these are the things that abusers use. Okay, because they know. Okay, because they know that when they see that your children are timid, or when they see that your children are timid, or they see that your children shy away, or your children do not have their voices, and they know that your children would rather not mention this thing to you because it is a taboo or it's a no-go area, they are able to actually use it to their advantage. Because hey, we all know by now that abusers are not usually strangers, isn't it? Abusers are, I think, 90% of the time, I don't have the statistics. I'm sure Chinyere will have the statistics, right? So, I mean, a huge chance the people that could abuse our children are people that are close to us, isn't it? So, if we don't teach our children to be vocal about these things, we don't teach our children to own these things, then chances are they will fall prey to abusers. All right, I think I got Chinyere in the house. I think I have her in the studio. All right, people. So Chinyere Obina, as I said earlier on, is a sex-wise coach, and Chinyere is very passionate about helping families know and learn about sex, making the conversation about sex like every other conversation in your home. And she will be coming on the screen right now to tell us how we can use the sex conversation to help our children stay focused and be on track. All right, so make a loud noise, make the rounds while we welcome Coach Chinyere Obina to take it away. Hey Chinyere, how are you doing?
I'm fine, Mary Beth. Good
All right.
evening.
Yeah, good evening. You had to take care of a bit or something. So I just stepped in and held forth for you. All right.
Oh,
So
thank
Chinyere,
you.
welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, it's good to have
Thank
you
you
here.
so much.
All right.
Thank you.
So I just mentioned a bit about why we need to have the sex conversation with our children, why we need to have those conversations and make them like everyday kind of conversation, so that the children do not see them as taboos or areas where they shouldn't go to. So that's where people that could likely be abusers, that happen to be people who are close to us in many cases, will realize that this one, you cannot silence this one. Because when they know that a child cannot be silenced, chances are they will look for someone that can be silenced and leave the one that cannot be silenced away. So China, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to leave you to take the floor, and I'll go backstage, but I'm right here. So thank you, ma'am, and thank you for doing this. All
Thank
right.
you, Mary Beth. Good evening, everyone connected this evening. I'm so delighted to be here, to speak about the topic Mary Beth gave me is sex education, a tool you can use to promote a purpose-driven life. The theme of this conference is baby steps to purpose, right? So, and my topic is sex education, a tool you can use to promote a purpose-driven life. And I'm so glad that I'm handling this topic. Why? I don't think I've taught this online before, but if I'm to title this my topic, I will call it sex and purpose. All right. So for everyone here listening to me or who will listen to me, every parent desires a child that will fulfill purpose. Yes or yes? Yes. A child that will fulfill purpose. If you are like me, I have a strong desire I've had a strong desire before now, and that desire came from the scriptures. Okay, there is a scripture that even if no matter how many times I read it, I'm I'm asking God, please let this be my testimony. Let this be the reality of my own children. The Bible says that they went to the temple. Jesus, the boy, Jesus, and Jesus and his parents went to Jerusalem, right, as their custom was. And then after the whole events and all that, they were on their way home, and they didn't even know that the boy Jesus was not in the company of the family, all right, as they were going home. They only realized when they got home that our boy Jesus is not with us. And Jesus was just a year shy of the official teen age of 13, and they had to go all the way back to the temple and saw Jesus. And they saw him in the temple. And they said to him, why have you given us so much stress looking for you, looking for you all through? Why? And, and listen to what the boy at the age of 12 said to his parents. And first of all, where did they find him? I always tell my children, I always use it to, encourage my children. They didn't find him in the party. They didn't find him on the streets like we see, young boys, just loitering in the streets aimlessly, purposelessly. They didn't find him any other place but in the temple. And then when they asked him, why did you give us so much stress? He said, don't you know? He said to his parents, don't you know that I should be about my father's business? As I'm saying it, goosebumps is just all over me. At the age of 12, he said, don't you realize that I should be I should be working in my father's business. And when I turn into a prayer, I say, God, please, I want my children at the age of 12 to know what business of life to be doing. Because like Mary Beth said in one of her posts, focus blinds. Okay. So a lot of times, children who discover purpose and begin to take steps into purpose become blind, all right, to influences that could damage their sexual life. So, but then we can't leave it at that. The truth is that when it comes to lifestyle, when it comes to human life, there is one thing every human being must face, because we are all sexual beings, right from birth, right from conception, not even birth, right from conception, our sexuality is settled. Okay, so before that child comes out, before you see the face of that child, the sexuality of that child is confirmed. So babies, children, infants, young people, we are all sexual beings. Okay, so and when we come out to the world, we face the world as we face every other area of life. We also face our sexuality. All right, we also develop sexuality. We also have to face issues about sexuality. All right, so your child now is going to make a lot of decisions in life, and part of it is going to be about sexuality. You can't separate the two. Now, have you ever thought there are people, if I mention their names now, they got to a point in their life and in their stardom or shining, and then they had a coma, which came as a result of sexual indiscipline. Okay, what is the problem? What could the problem have been? All right, there are a number of them, both within the religious circles and out of the religious circles. Now you want a child. No, let me tell you first that you can actually, it's very possible for a human being to live from start to finish without any form of sexual any implicated sexually, like have any news like that in their life. So it's very possible. So don't feel that. I know some parents have come to that point where they've given up. When a mother takes her daughters for family planning, claiming that this whole sex education brouhaha doesn't work, what do you think has happened to that parent? She has given up. So why should I allow my daughters to get pregnant? Let them go for family planning. No, don't give up. It's still possible that your child that is taking his baby steps to purpose will live a life that is free of sexual harass problems and all that, because it's a very serious problem. All right. So I want to use myself as an example. Every young girl faces this temptation, and every young boy. Okay, so as I was going into the university, and of course, in our generation, you can agree with me that sex education is not something that came to us normally. You could only find few people that really had good sex conversations at home in our generation. Okay, but with the things I saw around and with the things maybe I watched and all that in those days, I was like, okay, I'm going to be focused as I'm entering the university. I'm just going to face my God and my books. Now that's a beautiful decision to make. But you know what? I made that decision, but I wasn't equipped to carry on that decision. I wasn't equipped. Okay, it's one thing to decide. It's one thing to make what we call the virginity pledge or the sexual purity pledge. It's another thing to be well equipped, to know the tools to carry in your toolbox, the child, to know the tools to carry in their toolbox to make that pledge a reality. Okay, so I can tell you boldly, I know I didn't get into anything, but at the beginning, at the initial stages, it was a struggle because the temptations came, right? The boys came, the year one stuff. The boys came, even in the fellowship I attached myself to, they came. Okay, but it was until at a point in time in my life in the university when I began to get understanding of this whole issue about relationship of sexuality and sex that I had strong reasons and a foundation to keep, to help me push my decision to remain sexually pure. Now, that is a lesson to parents of our days. It's not enough for your child taking baby steps to purpose, to just be fulfilling purpose and to be one-eyed, focused on fulfilling purpose. He is also a sexual being. She is also a sexual being. And despite the fact that they will, that they are fulfilling purpose, despite the fact, up there, the temptation is higher. They are more exposed even to greater temptations. For example, if your child comes up and becomes a name in town or whatever, he's going to have more temptation than the normal boy on the street because he's standing out. And because he's standing out, all eyes are on him, including the eyes of both the good and the bad girls. The same thing for your daughter. So your job and duty as a parent is to arm your child to know how to handle his or her sexuality at that point where they are busy fulfilling purpose. I said it before, I'm saying it again. It's possible for a child, for a person to live from start to finish without any news about sexual feelings or sexual problems. Is very, very possible. But you are the one who will lay the foundation. Now, listen as I share these few thoughts with you briefly this evening. The most influential person when it comes to the sexual decisions children make is the parents. You are the most influential person in the decision your child will make. So, but even as parents, do we understand this whole thing about sex? Do we understand the nitty-gritties? Do we understand the purpose of sex? Do we understand the spiritual? Okay, let me just forget about the spiritual. The the science of sex. Do we understand all these things? If you understand it, you're going to be inflamed with even more passion to make sure that your child keeps pure, right? Till marriage, which all is mostly not tenable now, but it's still possible. Do you understand it? Do you understand the sexual temptations that are on ground now? Do you understand what the kind of temptations that your children will be facing now are different from the kind of temptations we faced in our days? Do you understand that your daughters, we have more problems now than mere children girls getting pregnant. There are a lot of sexual issues that are on our tables now that we need to attend to and keep our children well informed. Do you understand that as a parent, or are you just thinking that these things will fall on your children? They will understand, they will know. Are you just assuming? Remember, assumption is not a parenting strategy. Okay, so but listen to my thoughts today. You need to realize the power and pull of sex. Okay, itself. There is no other activity, that consumes humans more than sexuality. It can consume them for good or for bad. And of course, we know that it's mostly for bad in our days. Listen to me, sex is a strong force, often driven by physiological and chemical reactions that have the potential to place it in a position of dictating to a person what to do, rather than dictating to it what you will, dictating to it what you will do. In other words, the sex drive is a drive that can be in charge of a person's life. All right? It's one thing that drives humans. It can be in control of people's decisions, even when you don't want it to be in control of your decisions. So how the children handle themselves or fail to handle themselves sexually will have everything to do with where they aim. Where they aim, I mean, they need to get in front of it. Okay? So they must know that it is not something they can decide in the heat of the moment. Oh, at the point of temptation, is not when to make sexual decisions. Did you get that? Let me say it again. You need to get your children to the point where they know that at the point of temptation, sexual temptation is not when they take sexual decisions. They take sexual decisions ahead of time. They have to make such decisions right before they get to the point where they have to enforce the decision. I don't know if somebody is understanding me. This is, this talk is for parents, even if your children are still infants or babies, you've not given birth to them yet, or they are now teenagers or young adults. They must learn that sexual decisions are not taken on the spot. Sexual decisions are taken ahead of time, especially for the purpose-driven child, especially for that child who is already taking their baby steps to purpose. You don't arrive. Do you think Joseph in the Bible made his decision at the point where he was tempted by Potiphar's wife? It did not. It was something that was already settled in his life when he didn't think about it. He didn't have to think about it. He said, I can't do, I fear God. I can't do this wickedness. His response showed a boy or portrayed a boy whose decision was made ahead of time sexually. When you see the sexual decisions two people make at the point of a temptation, it will clearly show you one that's already made the decision before that time, and one that just decided, oh, what do I do right now? Okay, so they must get out in front of it. They must know that it is not something they can decide at the heat of the moment. Mbano. No, 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 no. At the heat of the moment. No, it's not something that is, it's not a decision to make at the heat of the moment. Okay? They must know that if they think that they can make up their mind where that so-called invisible line, you know what they call the invisible line is, they won't that they won't cross when they reach it. They will fail. If they choose to dabble here or dabble there in sexually explicit materials, TV shows, and media, and think that they will remain sexually pure, they will fail. Okay? So the only way to successfully handle the power and force of this dynamics in context is to go ahead, go before it. I'm just telling you this so you will be equipped when you're teaching your child, especially that child whom you believe is a purpose-driven child. There is something they can dabble with, it's sexual temptation. So they need to learn how to draw boundaries ahead of having to use those boundaries. I told you, for a girl making a decision to live a sexually pure life, for example, one of her tools in her toolbox is boundaries, as in my boundaries with the opposite sex. Okay, so she makes such decisions as I won't go visiting a boy in his house and be found alone in the room with him. I won't allow a boy to visit me in my privacy. In other words, in fact, she makes such decisions as I don't believe in this boyfriend dating and boyfriend and girlfriend because it reduces my chances of keeping myself sexually intact. Of course, if you don't know that, I'm speaking to parents because when it comes to sex education, there are all kinds of sex education in the world. You know, I made a post on my page and somebody made a comment that really touched me. I am not my audience, everybody is not my audience, especially in this ministry of sex education. Everybody is not my audience. There are people that I'm called to speak to. Okay, so you have your sexual values, all right? And if my own is rooted in the word of God, because I believe that God is the founder, the creator of sex. So he tells us how to do it. Okay, so I believe that if I want to remain pure as a young girl, then I'm going to cut off everything about dating and boyfriend, girlfriend until I'm ready to marry. And I also believe that when I'm ready to marry, my husband will come to approach me not for a time wasting relationship, but for marriage. Are you getting me? So this is boundaries. Boundaries. One of the topics we engage our children in sex education is teaching them about boundaries. You start teaching that from cradle, is not even when they grow up. You start teaching boundaries from cradle. They learn how to create their own boundaries. They learn how you teach them how to respect the boundaries of people and how to expect other people to respect their own boundaries. Do you understand me? So from cradle, you begin to teach your child from 1 to 2 years that they ought not to see an adult undressing or doing bathroom activities. All right? That's the beginning or the foundation of teaching about boundaries. Okay? So as they go on, they learn. As they grow, they make decisions, boundaries decisions, and the boundaries will increase. Okay? They have to increase the boundaries as they grow. So recognize that it's possible for that child to live free of every sexual problem. I've said that before and over again. So you as the parent, you are the most influential person when it comes to the sexual decisions children make. Okay? So One survey I read about a survey that found that 88% of teens said it would be easier to postpone sexual activity and avoid teen pregnancy if they were able to have more open, honest conversations about sex with their parents. Okay? Then the same study also found out that only 32% of parents surveyed believe they are most influential in their teens' decision. I don't know if you get that statistic. So you have a higher percentage of teenagers who feel that if they have open, honest conversations with their parents about sex, they will be able to delay sexual activity and stay pure. On the other hand, 32%, less than half of the other percentage of parents feel that they are not influential. Okay, they feel they are influential. That's the higher percentage feels that they are not influential. And it's a representative study. This is not the first time I'm seeing it. A lot of parents just have the assume that children don't want that their children, especially the teenagers, are not willing to hear about sex from them. They assume that it's just a waste of time. They assume that friends, they want to hear more about it from friends. They assume that they don't have any form of influence when it comes to the sexual decisions their children make. And that makes the parent to go do a lot of things such as family planning and introducing all kinds of control measures, because she believes that there's no need to talk and to teach or have the conversation. Let me just go ahead and protect my child. But given the culture we find ourselves in, we must put our hands on deck, okay, in raising sexually wholesome children that are on their way to fulfillment of purpose. Remember that on this road, on this journey of purpose, there will be many bumps on the road. There will be many temptations, and one that everyone faces is the temptation called the sexual temptation. And yes, don't say God forbid your children will also face those temptations. The question is, how prepared will your purposeful child be when that time comes? Okay, so at childhood, when they are still in your nest, all they need is for you to protect them. You protect them by teaching them, having the sex conversations, teaching them how to protect themselves, and putting in place things in your home to keep them protected from the sexual abusers. Because you don't want a purpose-driven child to grow up with sexual abuse, the trauma of sexual abuse. It can spoil a lot of things. It can destroy a lot of things in their future. You don't want your child growing up to begin to repair the trauma he or she faced as a result of sexual abuse that resulted in the carelessness and the ineptness of parenting. Because you didn't teach them what to do, because you didn't sex educate them, because there was no sex conversation in your home, because your home was porous, because they were exposed. So now they have to go, instead of the time they're supposed to use in fulfilling purpose, they go seeking for healing. Okay? So, but as they grow and begin to leave your nest gradually, they will be left to make their own decisions. In your sexual conversations, or in your sex education, in fact, in your life as a parent, you must remember that these children will not always be with you. There will come a point in their lives where they have to make a decision, even without you. They will start living even from secondary school briefly before they will eventually leave to stay on their own. So they will make decisions. Okay. So, but making the right decision depends a whole lot on what foundational work you have done while they are still in your nest. What foundational work are you doing while those children are still in your nest? Because when they leave your nest, they are going to make decisions. And like I said before, your voice should be the strongest voice they will hear when they want to make decisions, because there are a lot of voices they are hearing. They are hearing the voice of the media. They are hearing the voice of stars of pop culture, of media artists. They are hearing the voices of friends, of television. Okay, but they also have to hear your voice. The question is, whose voice is going to make the most? Which voice will they listen to make that sexual decision they want to make? So we are here to say that it should be your voice. And how do you make your voice the loudest voice? By talking about this at home, by making it an open conversation at home. Let them know that this is something we can talk about. Okay? Let them know that even when they fail, they can come back to you to talk about their failures. Remember, I said that one of the bombs, one of the temptations they will face in life is the sexual temptation, and how they handle their sexual temptation will determine a lot about their purpose fulfillment. All right, so you can ask David in the Bible, and of course a lot of them in our contemporary world. Okay, so that decision is very, very important. So simply in your home, what do? Keep the conversation simple and ongoing. Take advantage of teachable moments to teach sexuality, all right? And then don't only depend on teachable moments. You must also create moments where you teach your children about their sexuality and inculcate into them your sexual values. It's no news. I was watching a video that was sent to us, this morning about a young girl turned boy, and she was raised in a church. You just say, my children go to church, my children pray, we are religious and all that, and you assume that they know your stand in some issues like pornography, LGBTQ, and all that. This is not time to assume that your children already know that you don't believe in this and you don't believe in that. During your moment, your sex education moments at home, which must be done consistently, you must drive in these values, your values into them. Because when they go out there to make decisions, they'll make decisions based on these values that you have that impacted into them. What more? What's your parental connection? There are a lot, the study is everywhere. Children or young people who have a good connection with their parents, who have good parental connection, delay sexual activity better than children who have no parental connection. Go to the prisons, go to where rapists are, and ask them how their home front was. Many of them grew up in a very chaotic and traumatic home environment. Many of them had no parental connection and relationship. Many of them were abused by their parents verbally, emotionally, sexually, and physically. Many of them had no relationship, just most of them, in fact, maybe 100% of them. So for your child to remain in his purpose-driven journey successfully and win the battle against sexual temptation, parental connection is very key. Okay, what if your child makes a mistake? Don't say God forbid. Yes, we all listen to the statistics now. They say 95% or say 90% of people don't get married sexually pure. It's only about 5 or 10% of people who actually walk the aisle either intact as virgins. So your child may fall into the minor 5 or 10% of people that will keep their purity into marriage. But the other possibility is that even after you have struggled and taught and conversed and prayed, that they still fell into the 90% or 95% of those who ended up in their marriage without being sexually pure. So are you going to throw them away? Assuming this your purpose-driven child comes to you and tells you, Mom, I'm just addicted to pornography. I know you will go mad, but what will you do? You are there to support the child back on track to purpose, all right? Or comes to tell you that, look, I'm addicted now to masturbation, or I can't just get myself off this particular person, off sex and all that. and you know that this child is a purpose child, and this thing has come to destroy his purpose, are you going to throw the child away? Are you going to, are you just going to reject the child? No, you're going to be there all the way to support that child to come out of it and go back on track on in purpose. Okay, because if you hate the child, or okay, I wrote here that the way you react to a child who has gone off track, you either give the child hope or make the child hopeless. What's going to be your reaction as a parent? If your child comes to tell you, I'm now a porn addict, how do you react? It will either give the child, make the child hopeful. There's still hope. After all, God doesn't throw us away. How many times have you
Mhm.
offended God and He threw you away? Even the miracle of the prodigal son is because he knew that his father is waiting. So in sex conversations, your child must know that, look, even if you make mistake, I'm waiting, I'm here. I don't want you to make a mistake and then go from there to hellfire. I want you to make a mistake and bring it here. I'm here waiting for you. My arms are open. That guy knew that his father is waiting. He knew it. And he, no matter how far he went, he returned. My question to you is, that's your child on purpose. Does he know? Will he return? Assuming he drifts away because of a sexual sin, or you hear in the news that your child is involved in this or that, what will you do? Don't say God forbid. Ask yourself, what will I do? And prepare
Mm.
yourself. If your daughter, that's your daughter, whom you've already set up for purpose, and she's on her way, and the next day she comes and tells you that she's pregnant at the age of 16, what will you do?
Mhm.
Write down the plan of what you will do, and let it be on ground. So that that child, is, in fact, when it now happens, it doesn't come to you as a surprise, number one. And number two, you already have a game plan on how to make that child, what you're talking about, what's the end? Okay, she got pregnant. Okay, is okay. Is that the end of her life? Haven't you seen people who got pregnant
Mhm.
out of wedlock who have made something out of their lives? Is that the end of life? Is that the end of her
Mhm.
purpose? You've asked yourself those questions. You have a game plan. This is how we are. This is how I'm going to support this my daughter to not abort or throw away this her baby, but then I'm also going to support her to go back on track to purpose and make sure support her so she doesn't make the mistake again and again. You see, parental ignorance is a problem, because I heard a story similar to this one I just said, and the mother, she gave, she got pregnant, and okay, don't abort the pregnancy, you're going to give birth to the baby, and then she stayed home, gave birth to the baby, and then next thing, she got pregnant again for the same person. And the mother
Mm.
says, okay, stop school, just stay at home and give birth. And as I'm talking to you, the girl gave birth to 5 children for
Oh
the guy
dear.
who is studying, while she's here in her mother's house, getting pregnant and giving birth to children for this guy who is studying. Guess what happened? This guy was done studying medicine and surgery, and located another medical doctor and got married to her,
Oh,
and then came to for his children, of course,
wow.
with the consent of the wife, came for the children. I mean, that is parental stupidity, parental ignorance and stupidity.
Mm.
How? For her to even make the mistake the second time, you know, I mean, so I hope you get this. Put up a plan of what if, and so that your child will still fulfill purpose. That's the most important thing. All right. So I think I'm done for now. But I just wanted to say that you should consider your sexuality education at home as a building project. Okay?
Yeah.
So you start from the foundation, and then you have the framework, and then the finishing. Okay? So when your child is still an infant, a baby, you start your foundation and talk about those little things like body safety. I'm not going to talk about the details. Then as they get to primary school, you begin to flesh things up. All right? And then when they get to as they are getting to secondary school. In fact, I recommend in my guide, I said at the age of 13 or so, you should go right deep down, what I'm talking about, sexual intercourse. No, but I think it's rather late. I think before the child, by depending on the exposure of your child. For example, if your child has older siblings, if your child is
Hmm.
exposed to media, if your child is exposed, so it will inform your age, your sex education, right? So
Yeah.
you don't sex educate a child who has nothing, who doesn't know jack about sex. The same way you sex educate a child, maybe who has been sexually abused. It's different, it's different. So, but from 10 years, somewhere around 10, 11, 12, you should delve into the topic of sex. And like I said, if you don't even understand it as an adult, you won't even teach it properly. Because the way
Yeah.
we are even teaching the children about sex is making them want to go into it. But I would tell you boldly, anywhere, anytime, that there is a way you would teach a young child about sex. I mean, a teenager or a preteen about sex. And it will be something they'll be looking forward to in the right place at the right time, not something they want to indulge in at the wrong time and at the wrong place. So parental ignorance is a no-no in the 21st century. You must learn
Absolutely.
both the science and the spiritual and the physical. And you should start, I said it before, from 10 years, 11, 12, depending on the exposure of your child. There's a delicate balance here. You are trying to protect your child's innocence, quite all right. But then, are you really protecting it? I don't know if there's any child that is 8 years old that you ask, have you heard about sex, that will say, I've not. I don't think so. So you're
Yeah.
assuming, oh, I'm protecting my child. Let him not even know this thing early. As you come, one of the things you do when you want to do sex education is to ask your child something. Ask your child a question. Do you know, have you heard about homosexuality? You'll be shocked. You'll be shocked. Have you heard about lesbianism? You'll be shocked at what your child will tell you about all those things. Have you heard about sex? You'll be shocked that they'll give you details. And you say, I have been protecting my child's innocence. So there is this
Well,
delicate balance, but you must be able to, maintain it, okay? And then to
uh,
reduce exposure as much as possible. Okay, so
thank you
let me
so
just
much.
stop here.
Yeah, we have questions here. We have questions here.
Okay,
Even though we
okay,
have a
okay,
few minutes
okay.
before we run. So thank you so much. You've said a lot of profound things. I took a lot of notes here, but I don't even have time to go through my notes. I don't even have a lot about. There's been a lot of repetition of what you said because it's hitting the parents behind the stage. You can't see them. I can see them, and they are hailing, and it's hitting them. Someone actually said, "Let me pose the question." Okay, he said the question is what age should parents introduce this sensitive question to their children? What age
Okay.
should this
Sensitive,
be? Even though I think you've answered a bit
sensitive,
of it.
yeah. Sensitive topic. Do you mean sex education? Do you mean sexual intercourse? Or do you mean, are you talking about sex education in
I
general?
think I think
I
I
have
think this
said,
question can I think this question can actually vary for some people who have young kids. They don't even know the point where it should be introduced at all. When do we
that's
move away from your penis is your private part, your bum bum is your private? When do we move from there to the next level?
that's what I want to say. Just in case you're talking of general sex education, it starts, I said it that our sexuality starts from the womb, from conception. At
Hmm.
6 weeks, there is this puberty started for a boy. At 6 weeks in the womb, there is first puberty for a boy. There is this bath of testosterone. Testosterone. So it is determined from the womb that this one is a boy. He's coming out already battered with testosterone. So there is nothing to wait. Once your child can communicate, to begin sex education. And like I said before, when you start from body safety, body, body body autonomy and body ownership. Okay, let your child know the various body parts with their names. Okay, that's where to start from. And then, of course, what to do when somebody tries to touch them in an inappropriate manner, whether privately or publicly. Don't just say their private parts, all right? Because there are still inappropriate touches that are done on the back, which is not a private part, on the back, which is not a private part, on the hand. There are some handshakes that are inappropriate. So teaching your child about private parts and not allowing somebody to touch private parts is incomplete sex education, okay? Because sometimes the groomers groom from the public part before they get to the private part. So that's where you start from 18 months generally, okay? If your child is a fast person, might be from 1 year or from 15 months, okay? That's where you start to broach this topic. And then from age 5, you begin to go into other details. 5 to 7, you begin to go into other details. That's what I call the framework of your sex education, and begin to that's where you begin to get even more deeper questions from them, right? Like where does baby come from? How are babies born? And blah 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 blah. So don't say you are not. This is not your generation, please. Don't say it's too small. Listen to me, sex education, any question your child asks you, your child is ready to get the answer. Your job as a parent is to find out what that child already knows before you give your own answer. Then from age 8, you should, of course, sex education now is not limited. You should begin to, in fact, the first topic in sex education is male and female. It's in the Bible, Genesis. So you begin to, you talk to your child about your values. This is boys, God made male, God made female. This is the body parts of boys and girls. These are the differences, and make them appreciate themselves as a boy or as a girl. And then, of course, you begin to teach them your values when it comes to issues about pornography, masturbation, lesbianism, bestiality, transgender, and all those whack in the world. Those people out there, Satan and his people, they are hot. I mean, they are on fire. So you must be on fire in your home, instilling your values to the point that your child cannot be convinced. So sexual intercourse, finally, comes from age 10, depending on your child's exposure. Like I said before, 11, 12. Let them know the purpose. Let them know the beginning. Let them know it to the point that they make their decisions the right way.
All right. All right, Chinyere. Thank you so much, Coach Chinyere. There are more questions here. So, but guys, we're running out of time. Tega is on standby. We're supposed to have a session at 5 with Tega, and it's just 2 minutes to 5. We want to jump right into it. So please, Coach Chinyere, if you have time, just stop in the group and answer some of our questions there. Okay? So, you should answer some of your questions. We'll answer some of your questions and on YouTube, possibly. But this session is going to be on for about an hour or two. At the end of the day, we will move it to the YouTube channel and you can watch it from there. Thank you so much, Coach Chinyere, for this time. It's been amazing. I took so many notes, but we don't have time to go through them. But we hear you loud and clear. You need to have these conversations with your children. The lines need to be open for this conversation to be held. And then you need to make sure your children learn from you first. Let them hear it from you first, so that you are not shocked when you ask them these things and they already know. There is no age that is too young for you to start having these sexual conversations. So thank you so much, ma'am. We heard you loud and clear. All right, so thank you everyone who made time to join us. I see you all. I see you all. I see your Motayo, Grace. I see all of you. Thank you for joining. Do not go away. Tega is coming on here to talk to us about drugs and how even 7-year-olds are being lured into drugs these days. So hang in there. We're coming right back into the studio. Thank you very much, Chinyere. Have a lovely evening. Bye. Thank you, ma'am.
You too. Thank
All right,
you.
dear. Bye. All right, everyone. So that's it. We'll be right back in 3 minutes, please. In 5 minutes. Just give it 5 minutes and we'll be right back with Tega. Bye.